I'm Anti-Derivative Jill. This is Indefinite Lunch and Infinite Combinations number 45. And we're here to review the next episode in production order for the Star Trek, the original series. Tomorrow is yesterday. And of course, it's Star Trek, not the Star Trek. But today I'm joined with pop culture curator and Scotty R37.
Hello. I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
Hey, guys.
Hey, great. Me too. This is a wonderful Star Trek time travel episode. Tomorrow is yesterday. Thank you guys for joining me.
Absolutely smashing.
It's my pleasure. I can't wait. This is a great episode. I think a lot of Star Trek fans consider this one of their tops.
Definitely, and it's one of mine. Even with some of the things that happen.
There's a few flaws, right? But it's warts and all. It's a good episode.
Mm-hmm. And I want to make sure everyone's subscribed and rings the bell for Pop Culture Curators channel. On Mondays, we review the animated series. And
for now.
Yeah, for now. And next week we continue with season 2, the episode Practical Joker. And tonight you're going to be doing stuff too, your horror stream.
Evil Dead 2, Dead by Dawn.
And then on Wednesday, tomorrow, got Gilligan's Island.
Oh, yes.
Then,
I know that's kind of a juxtaposition of topics, but oh well. I like everything.
Hey, you like what you like and you're sharing it. That's what's
right.
important. And then also remember to subscribe to Scotty R37's Phantasmagorium show where he and his friends talk about stuff.
All the kinds of stuff. Tomorrow we got Batman Mask of the Phantasm. We're going to be giving some love to Kevin Conroy. And then on Thursday night, Jill will be leaping with me on our In the Loop, which is a quantum leap retrospective, which I've been having fun with.
Me too. And that one's always a time travel episode.
Yes. And it always has warts and all.
Yeah. And so for reference to the production of these episodes, some of the facts that I share comes from the Star Trek 365 original series by Paula M. Block and Terry J. Erdman. And I will say when I'm using the book, anytime I don't say I'm using the book, it's from elsewhere on the internet. So take that with what you will. And the idea to use this particular text as a source comes from my friend Raquel Briggs, who's featured on the Clobberin Times channel. It's the same book she used when she and Clobby reviewed the original series. So you should all subscribe to Clobberin Times and also read Raquel's amazing science fiction short stories. Now available in paperback, hardback, and Kindle.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. But before we get started in this episode, I do have a little time travel disclaimer. I've seen this episode, and it's very clear that Dorothy Fontana intended to create a story with a single malleable timeline, and one may manipulate it to have multiple timelines in an attempt to correct the time travel logic. But that, to me, is an extracurricular activity, which will take about 12-hour live streams to fully resolve. And as such, we will take in and discuss the time travel as written and intended by its creator, given the data from the episode.
Wow. Yeah. I came into this expecting that it was going to be an uphill battle for us malleable timeliners, but okay. All right, let's stick with Dorothy.
Well, we're sticking with Dorothy only because we only have a couple of hours. So let's see how she wrote it. And then later we can talk more about it. Any other time.
Okay. I'm sorry. I just did a spit take. I didn't realize. I thought this was going to be a fight.
Well, it could still be a fight.
Still could be a fight. It still could be a fight.
Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah. Who knows what'll happen? And I just want to say hello to the chat.
Hello, chat. Hello, all you guys.
Positive Candor. Great to see you here. And I think I also saw the comments now gone, but who was it earlier? There was someone here earlier.
Todd Michael?
No, it wasn't Todd Michael, but he is here now.
Hey.
Maybe they'll be back and I'll remember who they were.
Maybe I wasn't first.
Mm-hmm. Well, Positive Candor, Pop Culture Curator.
I remember what you're talking about. Somebody said first like.
Yeah, that person.
Yeah, I forget who it was, but hello to the person who first liked.
Yes.
Do they expire after a certain amount of time? Is that what it is?
I'm
Yes.
not sure.
Oh,
I think so.
okay.
And hello to Gorilla's Random Thoughts.
Hail, Gorilla.
And
Hey, Gorilla.
Lemon pie, nice.
Lemon. Hey,
Herc 130.
Hail, Herc.
And the Stream Elements bot wants to work today, so that's always good. And Yamas Queen Jess asks, this is the one with Gary? No, not yet.
Yeah,
we
not
will
yet.
get to that one later.
That's
assignment
season finale of season 2, I think.
Yes, and it was supposed to be a pilot or something.
Something like that. We'll get to it later.
Yeah. And hello to Dalek451. He says, "Hell, Jill on the panel. Saw the notification. Hey.
Nice. Good to see you, Dalek.
Hey, Dalek.
Hey, Dalek.
And hello also to the Comic Relief Crusader. It's Tuesday. I don't know if he's going to be having a titillating Tuesday later, but he's
hello
live stream on Tuesdays.
Ahoy, Crusader.
Mm.
Hail, Yamas Queen Jess.
Oh, Franco
Jess.
Walker. He was the first like. Hello, Franco Walker.
There it is. Hello, everybody. Hi, Franco.
Hey, Franco.
Dalek451 says Mask of the Phantasm is a great movie in general, not just as a Batman movie.
Yes, I agree. Yes, it was good.
Mm-hmm.
Sean Carter.
Good to see you, Sean. Glad you're here.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Franco Walker says that was me.
Nice. That was me. Here it is. Thank you. Thank you for confirming that.
Herc 130 says my work is actually making me work. How rude. I will be listening a lot today.
Good.
Hey, that's good. Glad you're here. 6 p.m. Mountain Time. Check out the Comic Relief Crusaders channel for titillating Tuesdays. Lemon Pie says titillating language, Jill. No, it's just a word.
Oh.
I think I'm okay with it.
Sounds dirtier than it is.
Yeah, it does. And yeah. Hello to Mr. Brown Alliance.
Hail, Mr.
Ahoy.
Brown.
And so tomorrow is yesterday. I need to bring up the PowerPoint. I didn't do that yet.
And are you going to share from the book?
Sure, in a moment. Not quite yet.
Okay. I didn't want to make sure you didn't forget is all.
Of course, yes. I wouldn't want to do that. The time that you weren't here, we did forget. So tomorrow is yesterday first, aired on January 26, 1967. It was written by Dorothy Fontana, although there is more information about that coming up soon. But
yes.
She's the one who gets the
credit.
The credit when she should have gotten script credit, and of course Jessman should have gotten story by credit. And it was directed by Michael O. Hurley, but we'll talk about that in a little bit more later. And this is the only episode that Michael
Hurley.
So Hurley. Thank you. And that's the only time I'll have to say his name because he doesn't direct again.
His director is Dan Hurley, the guy who played in RoboCop 1 and 2 and Halloween 3 Season of the Witch is the bad guy. Right here, if you guys can remember that.
Oh, that's cool. Do you know anything else about him?
Well,
he also was in The Last Starfighter. He was Grill,
the alien.
Yeah, he was the co-pilot for the guy. It's been so long since I've seen The Last Starfighter.
Right. It's funny. I know more about Dan O'Hurley than I do Michael O'Hurley, so I feel bad about bringing that up.
Oh, but that's okay. So we start with the wonderful opening at the United States Air Force Base here, showcasing the airplanes of the late 60s. Operators in a radar room detect a UFO, followed by an alarm and a quick flight of a fighter jet.
Stock footage?
Yes. Lovely stock footage. And then, only when the Star Trek music begins to swell, I think the music's done really well in this episode, do we see the Enterprise in close orbit with the atmosphere.
Right. Are we going to discuss whether the Enterprise is designed to fly in an atmosphere? Or I don't know.
Please do.
Yeah.
Well, because I'm wondering, I thought all it just had was warp engines and impulse, but I guess the thrusters, it could use thrusters to hover.
Thrusters, impulse. I would say it seems like this would be the first time that it's presented in canon, like in an episode. It is high atmosphere, and it is when they describe.
But it's still gravity. It's under effective gravity. It's not that high. I mean, you can see it's within the range of the clouds, which means it's affected by Earth's gravity.
So it would be, yeah. Then I would say that the picture that we are witnessing in front of us right now, say yes, it is capable of doing so.
I was just wondering how, but I don't know if that was ever made canon or not.
Repulsors, like no, that's more of a Star Wars thing.
I don't know if
through thrusters and impulse. I would say through thrusters
impulse
and impulse
moves it forward, right? But I'm wondering what keeps it up in the air, right?
Impulse power is a measure of power, not a measure of speed. And so,
but isn't it directional? Because it's behind the saucer section, right? So I'm guessing that it's designed to make the ship go forward.
Well,
obviously it can go backwards, in impulse speed, but I'm just wondering what keeps it aloft. If there's any Star Trek fans out there that know more than I do about that.
Well, it would be the technology of it is affected by. Yeah, so I would assume that it is going forward with the thrust of the impulse engines, thusly combating the gravity. That's why it's such a wobbly situation. When it is flying here, you can't really tell from the still. But
no, but that I do like that they showed it wobbling a little bit. That shows the air is affecting it. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
But also, if they're within the Earth's atmosphere, if the ship was to rock left and right, the people inside would also move left and right because they're not in space. But I don't know.
Inertial dampeners to a certain extent. Maybe they're
when did they officially mention? When did they create
inertial dampeners? Yeah. I'm not 100% sure. Maybe then in this case, gravity plating.
I would say maybe the shields could help with this too, but they just lost a bunch of power, so I don't know if those are even working. Right
artificial environment, I guess.
They do mention that the shields are back up after they restore power, and so that the beams from the base can't see them anymore. So it's
I remember that line where Spock says that. I'm like, shields aren't made to make the Enterprise look invisible.
No, but in terms of deflecting primitive sort of radar or whatnot, I don't know how specifically that would happen, but I would say that the shields do the sensing technology of the era wouldn't be able to penetrate the shield. So maybe it was a mirage, some sort of blip, a UFO.
I like your idea of using the thruster systems. That works for me for now, but further investigation is worth it. And then we have our captain's log. Stardate 3113.2. We're en route to Starbase 9 for resupply when a black star of high gravitational attraction began to drag us toward it. It required all warp power in reverse to pull us away from the star. But snapping like a rubber band, the breakaway sent us plunging through space, out of control, to stop here, where we are.
And wherever we are. Paper panels above Spock's head there.
Yeah,
yes.
I could. And so the force and magnitude of a black star is what propels the Enterprise into the past. And they go into the past for the second time in the series, and here's what the book says about it. Tomorrow as yesterday marks the second time the Enterprise travels back in time, but whereas the first trip in the naked time was very short, a mere 71 hours, this one sends the crew 300 years into the past, necessitating some precise calculations from Spock and Scotty in order to get the Enterprise home. Afterward, Kirk realizes that they have come up with a tool that will allow the Enterprise to make controlled trips through time whenever such travel is deemed required. You'd think this would have resulted in starships from every world initiating their own journeys in time and space, but apparently Starfleet kept the methodology of the so-called slingshot effect very hush-hush. Kirk and company would again use the technique to revisit Earth in the 1960s in Assignment Earth, and later Earth of the 1980s in Star Trek IV, The Voyage Home.
It has so many questions just in terms of the calculations, because Spock does all the calculations for the slingshot effect, but then he does recreate them for Star Trek IV from memory, and that's after he died. So, good work on that refusing of the Katra.
All right.
Well, yeah, his memory slowly came back to him, but that was a good joke in Star Trek 4. I love that movie so much.
Yes.
Jill, I was wondering if I could show a short clip here of something I noticed in this scene.
Absolutely. Please do.
It'll just take a second here.
And hello to Matt G. He is now supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, but I will not be saying that several times throughout this live stream.
Is it because the sound of it is something quite precocious?
Atrocious.
What one or the other?
Oops. I'm trying to minimize my. I'll do that later. Okay. This is a scene where they're trying to determine what's going on and where they're at. You guys remember this scene, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, what's going to happen is Kirk is going to approach Spock, and they're talking or having a conversation. I want you to. I'm going to play it in slow motion. I want you to notice behind Spock on the wall. This is a good old camera or microphone. I'm sorry. So you can obviously. I'll go back.
Oh, the boom shadow.
Right. So if you're ever wondering what kind of microphone they use, you can obviously tell by the shadow and the shape of the shadow. Man, I thought that was interesting. It's too bad they didn't notice when they edited it together. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Jill.
You're welcome. Thank you. And the Comic Relief Crusader says, it's just a funny word. I like using it. It made sense at the time. Sounds dirty, but it isn't. Yeah, otherwise I wouldn't be saying it repeatedly. It's
exactly what it sounds like.
It's a titillating episode too, so it works. Sean Carter said, the old Lockheed Martin F104 Starfighter. One of the coolest names for an airplane ever. Starfighter, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
and it fits the episode too. The ship was actually supposed to be able to land on the bottom of the saucer are panels where the legs would come out. They just never had the budget to show it.
True. And they do mention it in the episode The Apple.
Well, I know they were supposed to separate as well, right? But they were never able to show that. Is that correct?
That's what they mentioned in The Apple. And then for the safe landing, they're the triangular discolorations on the underside of the saucer, those lower.
Franco says the Enterprise in the high atmosphere is well done.
Yes, it is.
Yes, and Mr. Brown asks, wasn't it an accident? And it was impulsing out of the atmosphere? Yes, so they're not in the atmosphere just for fun. They're enduring it. They need to escape. They can't stay there for long. So it wasn't on purpose that they're flying out there. So the ship is able to handle it.
And in answer to the question, intended to? No. Did it? Luckily, yes.
Yes. Admiral Teague says, I'm guessing the velocity figures in the Enterprise to be able to navigate lower atmosphere.
Possible.
Yeah. They still have their own gravity on board. And Mr. Brown says, moving on. And Matt G just tipped $1. Jill is late again. Lol. Was at the Sonic drive-thru. Yeah, I gotta have my drink. So the shields acted like a primitive cloaking device.
I'd have to revisit.
Because that's what I'm wondering. Because even after they get back out of the atmosphere and they're in orbit around the Earth, I mean, it would still be visible by the telescopes at the time. I mean, we weren't that dumb, right?
The telescopes, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Right, like Sputnik. Sean Carter, well, I guess we had more than that, but not as many as we have today. Sean Carter says, I think it would be more like our current stealth tech does. Just redirects or deflects current sensing equipment like radar and LiDAR.
Possible.
And Gorilla says, I'll only be listening. Oh, what? I'm in a really...
Well, sorry to hear that, Gorilla. It doesn't sound good.
Yeah, whatever that is, I don't know what that means, but it doesn't sound good. I hope you're okay. Hello to Cardinal Sin. And Sean Carter says, that Mike's shadow is not as bad as the full boom mic showing in the mirror. And Next Generation was Troy and her mother.
No, that's hilarious. I can imagine that scene. The person holding the mic probably fell asleep. It was so bad.
You're right. Because, you showed me a lot of the boom mic in shadow, but in TNG, this boom mic just straight up shows up because they figured nobody's going to see it because of the resolution of the TV sets.
Yeah, but the whole idea is you think the editor would have caught it, but I didn't know it's too late to go back and reshoot. So,
So also, this episode was going to be a sequel to The Naked Time, the first time they tried and traveled back, as evidenced in an earlier draft in the script, in which the last line was an order from Kirk to go to Earth, which is how they end up at Earth. And this is the first time in Star Trek we deliberately head to Earth.
That's true.
Yeah, that kind of leads into what I was reading out of that book.
Oh. You know what? For some reason... Oh, wait, here it is. And yes, this episode was written by a Malleable Timeline. And while this isn't the earliest use of time travel in fiction, like H.G. Wells and even stuff before that, what this is a unique new way to conceive of it in conjunction with more modern scientific ideas. Even though time travel to the past itself was believed to be fantasy now, back in the 60s, people weren't too sure. Another thing I really love about this episode is that this is the first mention of time travel having happened after interacting with a black star. Today, we call them black holes instead of black stars. And that engaged me, endeared me to this episode because the study of black holes was in its infancy at this time. This is a wonderful example of Star Trek exploring real-life science of its time. Even using this star for time travel was a prediction of later conceived theories that a black hole could somehow connect with a wormhole, a mirrored wormhole, which could be a pathway through space and time. And this isn't a kind of theory we can even test. But the use of this method for me was tremendous fun because the Enterprise had no choice but to be flung back 300 years. So it was a complete accident.
From what I read, I guess this was filmed in 66 or premiered in 66. But in 67, physicist John Archibald Wheeler would popularize the term black hole to refer to the phenomenon Kirk describes as a black star.
Yes.
At the suggestion of a student.
Very cool.
The term is now credited to physicist Robert H. Dick, comparing the phenomenon to a life prison dungeon in Calcutta, known as the Black Hole of Calcutta.
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming nothing can escape.
Right.
Apparently, and worse than Alcatraz.
Well, we'll have to wait for Stephen Hawking to fully get some of the mathematics of a black hole. But for now, the black hole stuff is something new that scientists are looking at. And just like pop culture said, it's just been a couple of years since we realized they even exist. So it's pretty fun. It's here.
And then just circling back to some more fictional science. Right after Captain Christopher gets on the bridge, Spock says to Kirk as a report, our deflectors are operative enough to prevent our being picked up again as a UFO.
That's what I wondered. It's like, okay, but there's not a cloaking device. But
no, but it's a deflector. I don't know.
Maybe it can deflect radar,
that is a
but
good question.
Not a visual. I don't know. Maybe it can deflect radar.
Yes, that's what Yama's Queen suggested. And I think that's plausible to me.
Makes sense.
It is a good question.
I'm willing to buy that.
Mm-hmm. After breaking free from the black hole, the Enterprise is stuck with only impulse and auxiliary power, and warp drive is also not working. So the Enterprise was already back on its way to Earth, and after breaking away from the black hole, they're still headed towards Earth. So we get to see a view of the North American atmosphere.
From what I read here, it was apparently on its way to Earth for a refit or a retrofit.
Yes. And also... Yes. Spock says, We are too low in the atmosphere to retain this orbit, Captain. Engineering reports we have sufficient impulse power to achieve escape velocity, which of course is...
That's why, okay, so then that's what made me think about, then it's not thrusters keeping it up, because they say their time's limited if they stay within the atmosphere, or is it because they're running out of power?
They're running out of power, definitely. They only have impulse power, but they obviously have enough to get out of the situation that they're in, so they don't stay in this position for long.
Correct.
So Sulu is instructed to climb higher as a result, while Uhura reports that normal Starfleet channels send back only static, so she plays what she does pick up on the radio. And it's this, and it's in the private chat. Scotty, could you please read it?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't have anything in the private chat.
Private chat's empty.
Oh. I put it in there a long time ago, and I guess got erased.
Aw.
Here we go.
There it is.
There we are. Hang on just 1 second. This is the 2530 news summary. Cape Kennedy. The first manned moonshot is scheduled for Wednesday, 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. All 3 astronauts who are to make this historic...
Perfect. Then Kirk says that the trip to the moon happens in the late 1960s. And so this episode correctly predicts the moon landing, which occurs in the summer of 1969, which is about 3 years after this episode.
No,
number 69, also a very good Bryan Adams song.
But they were also correct in the launch was on a Wednesday.
Mm-hmm. Which is even more incredible, isn't it?
Yeah,
you got the day of the week right, too. How'd you do it, Dorothy?
This Bob.
Is... Our both? Well, okay, yeah, I haven't read... I do want to read the original to see just how fleshed out. I know that it does follow his original ideas, beat
from
for
what
beat, but
when I read, it's almost beat for beat from the without. I don't have the original.
Did
story,
you actually
obviously.
read the original script?
No, I don't have the script. I just have the letter that Justman
yes.
sent to Gene Roddenberry with the idea on it.
I believe that Justman should have the story by credit and Dorothy should have the teleplay credit.
Would you like me to read the letter that he sent to Gene Roddenberry? I can do that later.
Sure, go ahead. Now's as good time as any.
All right, this is from Inside Star Trek, The Real Story by Herb Solow and Robert Justman. And there's a letter to Gene Roddenberry dated April 12, 1966. And it says, Dear Gene, the Enterprise is returning to Earth where refitting, rotation of crew, taking on supplies, etc. is planned. On approaching Earth, there is malfunction of the ship's machinery with regard to its time warp capabilities. The Enterprise, due to this malfunction, does arrive back at a familiar planet, which, of course, does turn out to be Earth, but this is Earth of 66 and not of their time. There follows a situation with which we are becoming familiar. Every spring about this time, there are sighting reports of UFOs. The Enterprise's shadow craft is sighted and is identified as a UFO. Kirk and Spock and the others realize upon contact with the denizens of the Earth where they are in time. Thereupon, our story develops and Kirk begins to see that by breaking through time, he is starting up a whole new and different sequence of events which will affect the history and civilization of our planet in future years. Who knows where this will lead? Perhaps it will turn out that he and Spock and the Enterprise and its crew will therefore never really exist in the future. He will also see that the whole future course of events will be changed so radically as to cause irreparable damage to any future Earth civilization. Thereupon, the problem arises as to how they are to go back and change what they have already set in motion. Finally, after much experimentation with the ship's machinery, they do in fact go back to the moment when they arrive back at the Earth in 1966. UFO reports go out again, but Kirk and the Enterprise disappear before any contact can be made with our 1966 world denizens. There only remains on Earth the usual mass of spring UFO sighting reports, which is checked out by various government agencies and found to be without foundation. And he notes, Bob Justman says, Gene gave no indication that he had ever read the story idea. So 8 months later, on December 12, 1966, in a memo entitled, What's Fair is Fair, Bob again wrote to Gene. So this is December 1st, 1966. Gene, attached you will find a copy of a story idea memo I wrote last April 12th. I would appreciate you perusing the memo and letting me know whether you like the idea. If you like the idea, I would appreciate your okaying my submitting a request to be paid for an original story. I would entitle the screenplay something like All Our Yesterdays, or Tomorrow the World, or Tomorrow is Yesterday. Please let me hear from you at your earliest convenience, as otherwise I feel I should be forced to sell the story idea to the time tunnel. And Bob's reminder produced results because the show was still suffering a dearth of intriguing and affordable scripts. Roddenberry assigned Bob's story to DC Fontana, or Dorothy, who had just gone on staff as story editor. Again, she wrote an excellent teleplay. The episode Tomorrow Was Yesterday posed some fascinating ideas about time travel and its effect upon the history of the past and the history of the future. Unfortunately, Gene had a blind spot about recognizing the contribution of original material from others. On several occasions, I talked with Gene about his attitude that the public must perceive him as the originator of everything that was Star Trek, even given the fact that most of the, quote, original Star Trek doctrines, ideas, and concepts were not original to Star Trek at all, but rather were derived from current science and magazines, books, and films that predated his.
That's what makes Star Trek great, though. But yes, continue.
Right, it was a culmination of ideas and films that predated his, quote, wagon train to the stars. Unfortunately, Gene brushed aside such discussions. He apparently never saw this flaw. Sometimes Gene would joke about the colleagues' contributions by insisting that, for example, Gene Coon's creation of the Klingons and the Klingon culture, Bob Justman's many story ideas and production concepts, and my contribution of the Captain's Log Stardate concept all came from his cousin in Ohio. It was the beginning of what years later would be referred to as the Star Trek myth, a legend of ideas and accomplishments that became the lightning rod for the millions of fans and whose fervor and support thrust Star Trek into the rarefied atmosphere of near-galactic success. So accordingly, Gene gave Bob neither credit nor payment for the story. In fact, he never even thanked him. So, sorry.
And that's the complete. Okay, that's
where I stopped. There's more, but I'll stop there.
Okay.
Now you're sounding like Spock. If you're gonna get nasty, I'm gonna leave.
Well, yes, but absolutely, Bob Justman deserved story by credit for this episode, no doubt.
Yeah, in fact, he wasn't even paid. I mean, that's terrible.
Right. Yeah, no, that was a mistake on the whole production crew. I don't just put it on any single person. And it is absolutely terrible that it was not noticed. And nobody made an effort.
Well, the whole time, it says here, Bob continues, he says, at the time I was disappointed by the fact that Gene never responded to my request to be paid for the story. I knew that he had come up with a number of story ideas for the show, quote, springboards, as we called them. He claimed that he wouldn't get paid for them. They were part of his duties as a creator of the show. But since I was part of the management team, I rationalized that if Gene could do it gratis, then so could I. The important thing was to help the show in every way possible. At the time, I had no idea that Gene would receive extra money from the studio for this, quote, extra work. Many years later, when I had the facts, I came to realize that the feet of clay syndrome was kicking in, but at the time I didn't want to accept the fact. So he was even telling people that he wasn't getting paid from Paramount for rewriting these scripts, which we all know he did. But oh well.
All right.
It's terrible.
Well, and so who got full credit on the episode?
Dorothy Fontana, wasn't it? Ultimately, and Gene Roddenberry.
I think the sole credit for the teleplay, and I didn't recognize story by or anything. It was full credit to Dorothy Fontana.
That's right. And so what we're saying here is that Bob, I will agree wholeheartedly that Bob Justman deserved a story by credit. He did not get it, and that's it. That's what we know.
Well, but it also could be interpreted as Gene Roddenberry sort of going to the mat for DC. And saying, no, she gets full credit on this one. Thanks for the memo, but we're going to give it to Dorothy.
It would have been nice if she would have.
I think that was a mistake.
Right. Dorothy knew where it came from. It would have been nice if she told Gene, I want to give Bob credit too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, so then it's a collective. It's not just Gene being a jerk.
That's true. Exactly is what I'm saying. everybody was there. They could see it.
Well, and as Mr. Brown would say, I think.
And this is also unfortunately this is why they were losing production staff throughout the series because people were getting tired of this and they were leaving, which is sad.
And it makes sense that I totally don't question that Bob Justin came up with this, because this is a really great story that makes sense for a producer to come up with, because it saves a lot of money since you're going back to modern times.
Mm-hmm. Stock footage, right? And otherwise than that, it's a bottle episode, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, yeah. He definitely deserved more. So, continuing with the episode, Kirk says that the trip to the moon... Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, right. We mentioned that already. Where are we? Okay, so this is the part. Scotty, can you describe this part, please? Oh, he's not here.
Oh, Scotty stepped
he went
away.
to go get tea. Yeah. So
the actor playing Captain Christopher, by the way, was discovered by Lucille Ball, and he made various television appearances and movie appearances, most of them with Paramount, and a lot of times it was roles as police officers, a couple shady roles as bad guys, but it was mostly police officers and military figures.
Yeah. And this is around the moment that Spock confirms that they've traveled to the 1960s, and Spock's giving a look that says that he knows what effect. Oh, okay, wait. See, I think I have things a little bit mixed up. But so then there's a very exciting exchange between Captain Christopher's jet fighter and the Enterprise, and very awesome stuff. I really appreciate that Christopher is wonderful at keeping his cool in the face of such a fantastic ship that he has no familiarity with, and whose size must be intimidating. And later Kirk thinks that. Hello?
Hi.
Hello?
Oh,
I think it got cut off, Jill. We heard, and later thinks that, and it stopped.
Wait, where?
And later thinks that, and then it stopped.
Okay, gotcha. I thought I turned this off.
There's a mandolin.
Yeah. Kirk thinks that Christopher... Okay, wait, what the heck? I think I got some of my notes mixed up.
No problem. And it's funny because this is still, even today, this is still something that is an issue with pilots, where they see objects, UFOs, and things like that, and that are questioned on what they've seen.
Oh, you know what? Yes, that's right.
We've all seen the videos.
True. So later on in the episode, Kirk thinks that Christopher would be useless in the 23rd century. But to me, this moment right here proves that he would actually be great, even if he doesn't get very far in Starfleet with a little training, like McCoy says.
Mm-hmm.
He has the right disposition, I think. And Spock mentions that the fighter jet could have a nuclear warhead that could damage the Enterprise under current circumstances, with so much of the power out and everything. And anyway, that scene with the jet fighter was pretty fun and incredible, and as is all of the episode that you really should watch. The Enterprise uses the tractor beam for the first time in this episode when they take hold of the fighter jet, causing it to break down, and Kirk orders the pilot beamed aboard. And Captain Christopher introduces himself by serial number and is understandably very leery, no matter how friendly Kirk is trying to be. And actually, Kirk is kind of a little bit too friendly.
Right. Well, yeah, it seems to me like, I don't know, I could be crazy, but it seems like, just to be cautious, Kirk should have had security with him.
Yes.
Because you don't know what to expect from this pilot when he beams on board. He could completely panic, and just go off. And I don't know. I just thought it was strange. I guess at least Kirk is automatically assuming A, that he's very harmless, and B, that he's never going to return because he not only does he accept him with open arms, but he starts giving him a tour of the ship. And I thought that was odd. If you're trying to keep the technology from him, I think I would have kept him there in the transporter room.
Yes, like they do with the second
knowledge.
officer. Like they do with the second officer who comes aboard. They'd limit his roaming of the ship, but no, let's go straight to the bridge.
Even give him a uniform, yeah.
Right, and the uniform that they give him is actually sort of correlates with his rank as a Air Force
captain,
and it kind of
does.
I did think about that when he shows up with Lieutenant Stripe on his sleeve, and I was like, yeah, that makes sense about shuttle pilot. Yeah, Lieutenant, I got you.
And the guy who plays him, what's his name?
Oh, I don't know that guy's name.
Captain Christopher's real name?
Mr. Christopher? Hang on.
No, and I had it right here, but I forgot that I used my phone for notes, and I forgot that I put it on airplane mode. So I apologize for that. There it is. Now I'm getting all of my alerts.
Oh, let's see. Roger Perry?
Roger Perry, yes. Apparently he wanted to keep that uniform, and someone told him he could probably just take it, but he didn't end up doing it, and later regretted not taking it.
Yeah, I would too. Anything that isn't bolted down.
So Matt G just tipped $1. He says Discovery goes back to Earth this time, and here's Earth's communications is spotting a ship that looks like theirs, and they don't realize it's them. Hey, find that UFO.
Is he talking about the show Discovery or no?
I don't know.
They go back and
I think Matt G is starting to write a Star Trek episode, and this is the beginning. And I'm sure it'll be way better than anything being currently written right now. even with that.
If I may attempt to speak Matt G for a second, what I'm thinking that he's saying, and this is what you get for $1, folks, is that the USS Discovery goes back to Earth at this time, but because we're watching Star Trek Discovery, we see the Discovery in the sky. Everybody notices it and says, shoot that thing all the way down.
Oh, that would be nice.
Is my guess. I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth.
You know what? I like that answer. Franco Walker says Gene was a bit of a dick, really.
Right, and a little bit of detail about that uniform. Roger Perry liked his Star Trek uniform so much, he asked DeForest Kelly if he could take the shirt home. Kelly replied, "Well, they frown upon that, but you could possibly just stick it in your bag, and nobody's going to say anything." Perry decided not to do that, but after seeing the eventual success and legacy of Star Trek, he regretted it, of course.
That's the story. Thank you.
Well, I'm glad that he was a gentleman and not a thief. I would have stole the crap out of that.
Oh, yeah.
The Nerdporial Lifeform is here, and he says, I like this episode, The Naked Time Part 2. And Riley locked Scotty out of his studio.
Shame on Riley.
One more time.
Then the Nerdporial continues. When I first watched this on TV and video recorded it, I was baffled at the beginning because I was like, this isn't Star Trek. But luckily, I didn't turn it off, and we see the Enterprise in the sky.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a really good hook.
Right. The fact they don't open on the Enterprise like they normally do.
No, this was a really good hook for people, especially people who don't normally watch Star Trek. They see Star Trek and they change the channel, but they don't see Star Trek and they stick around. So Nerdporial says that was in the 1960s. Apparently, Captain, so are we. No, I do say nuclear. I think what it is that I just say it too fast and you hear it the wrong way. I promise I'm saying it correctly.
What, nuclear?
I hadn't noticed. It sounded like nuclear.
Yeah, I know. I am saying it, but I think I say it too quickly for him, and the hearing just messes it up. I've never said it any other way. Matt G said, "Oh yeah, that's right. There's Matt G's tip again."
It's right by Matt G. Or what? No, this is Stream Elements.
Stream Elements. They can comment.
Weird.
It's
wow.
right
Okay.
bias.
Wow.
Oh,
You're getting compliments from Stream Elements. My goodness.
no, that's the end of Nat G's donation.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
So,
Okay. Gotcha.
hey,
There it is.
hey, find that UFO. It's right bias.
Okay. There it is. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm. And Admiral Teague says, is Spock paranoid or uniformed to think that we'd find
Uninformed.
a nuke
I think he means
around
uninformed.
over the continental U.S.? Yes. Yes, you're right. Or is it already fictional? 1966, where the U.S. really did this.
And I was curious about that myself, but it being the height of the Cold War.
Yeah, I think it's very unlikely, but possible.
It is possible, and as first officer, you have to provide alternatives and defenses. It is possible.
And Matt G confirms what Scotty said. Yes, like a parody of Discovery where they look like idiots. Well, hey, find that UFO. It's right by it.
Okay, I think what you guys are referring to is when Spock said that it may have nuclear missiles. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
Okay. To that end, they don't know for sure. I mean, yes, nuclear missiles existed at the time, but would that plane necessarily be armed with them? That's unlikely. It would probably be armed with standard regular missiles. Usually nuclear is a last resort, and it's a planned operation.
Oh, and they were trying to hold it there for so other planes were to arrive. Maybe they could have been anyway.
You'd have to actually land and then have nuclear weapons loaded onto the plane. That's the thing, is it's not something you would just on a random routine recon flight have them already stocked in your plane. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but the planes are scrambled at the beginning of the episode. They're specifically in response to this object.
Right, but I'm just saying I doubt those missiles at that point are nuclear. I think a nuclear arsenal would be something they have to call upon and plan a mission around. It's not something they just carry around on their planes.
Bluebird
that's
4
just my opinion.
Crushed anyway. So, but that makes
sense.
He
could fire on the Enterprise, but it wouldn't be with nuclear missiles. Is all I'm saying. And it wouldn't. What would happen? The escalation of events would be, if it happened, is he would fire at the Enterprise. His missiles would have no effect on it, and then that's when he would radio back and say, "My missile has no effect." And then ultimately they said, "Well, let's try nuclear." And they would arm a ship, a plane with nuclear weapons, and send that up. Is what in that order.
Makes sense.
Possible.
But that's just my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it is very unlikely that he has that.
Right. I think what Spock meant is we have the capabilities, but I don't think he was necessarily saying that Christopher's ship was armed with nuclear weapons. Right.
Yes, there was no confirmation of said nuclear devices.
Right.
As they make it to the bridge, they pass a crewman in the corridor, and Christopher stares after her.
I would.
And wonder that.
Right there, you should say, "Wow, miniskirts, just like they have in my time."
Well, and it's just new dude on the Enterprise syndrome every time they see one of the hot yeomans walk by.
Right, but he should know. I mean, this is the '60s that he's supposedly from, and miniskirts are all over the place. They're the rage at the time.
But not in the service, and that's why.
What? Not in the service, correct.
Right. And it's really kind of funny because the music changes briefly for this moment, just for her moment.
Of course.
And I guess maybe, that actually changes things for me. That maybe he's just reacting to the fact that she's wearing a miniskirt, not that she's in the Air Force, because women did serve with the Air Force since 1943.
Right, but in the 60s, the dresses they wore went down to their knees.
Mm-hmm.
But Captain Christopher actually says, "A woman," and it's like, yes, yeah. He refers to it, and then what is it? Good morning, Captain. A woman, and Kirk corrects him and says, "Crewman."
Crewman.
Right, and well, I guess because Christopher hasn't quite grasped what's going on, but women did serve in the military in the 60s.
Yes, and in the Air Force, they served for the Air Force kind of as civilians, but they're basically doing lots of very military type things. But I think what it is that they didn't get credit for being veterans until the 70s. So retroactively, Star Trek is technically correct.
And I think when people receive credit, I think it was mostly combat roles. If you serve during peacetime, there's not much credit.
Right. The credit was for the women who served during World War II.
Yes. Which they justly deserved, obviously.
Obviously, because they were doing very dangerous missions like flight testing and target practice.
Julia Child was a spy, so yeah.
What?
And Gina Lola Brigida helped design the. I can look up to it. The actress helped design. I believe it was Radar at the time.
She just passed away.
Yes, she did. Yeah, but Julia Child was a spy.
That is the funniest thing I've heard all day. I did not expect to hear that at all.
Yep.
I can't believe. And an excellent cook, by the way. French cooking.
And I'm an excellent cook. Here, drink this.
Mm-hmm. And Cardinal Sin says, AI is getting better and better. Franco Walker says, I don't think they would know for sure, as it is so far in the past. They knew Earth had nuclear weapons at that time.
Well, yeah, because of World War II, the way it ended. So I'm sure they were aware of that.
Oh, that's true, Cardinal Sin says, or they could just shoot a nuclear missile from Maelstrom Air Force Base right into the Enterprise. If it came to that, yeah, absolutely.
All right, it would have to be armed. Right? It's not something they keep, armed and ready to go at all times.
Yeah, it's a serious business. Pop culture makes a good point.
This nuclear war sounds awfully slow. Everyone's lazy.
Well,
get it over with. Get me to the Fallout universe.
It's so destructive that it needs those kind of fail safes.
I want to listen to the ink spots.
Otherwise, the wrong person
bottle caps
has the button. Admiral Teague says, if a nuke is detonated over the U.S., the EMP blacks out about half of our country.
I saw GoldenEye. I know what you're talking about, Admiral. Hey, Oiler Greg.
And yeah, hello to Oiler Greg. And Cardinal Sin says, just not in combat. Correct.
Right. And Admiral's correct, but it would take several bombs, not just one. They do have a range. That's how they're designed now. They're designed to blow up before they hit the ground.
Oh man. Oiler Greg says, I'm late because I thought tomorrow was yesterday.
Well, better late than never there, Oiler Greg.
So, in explaining why Captain Christopher arrived on the ship, Kirk says, this is very difficult to explain. We're from your future. A time warp placed us here. It was an accident. You seem to have a lot of them, says Christopher. And so I thought that was just kind of funny in terms of Star Trek. Because
I would ask him, what do you mean by that? Please elaborate.
How do you know?
Right. Well, how would you know? Right. The only accident he knows that they're back in time, but they haven't really elaborated on why or how yet.
Well, but also they kind of crushed his ship. Like his plane.
Just slightly.
That wasn't on purpose.
Right. That was an accident with the tractor beam. So the first tractor beam almost killed a guy.
Yeah. So based on the first 5 minutes of meeting these futuristic space people, it's like, oh, wow, you guys screwed up by coming back in time. And then you blew up my ship. They're my airplane. Thank you very much. So how often do you want to mess up today?
But they assume that the film off the cameras apparently survived the crash of the
the black box.
Yep.
Yeah.
And stuff.
Well, the black box wouldn't have it. The black box records the events of what the plane does, but the cameras on the wings would be the ones that they're concerned about.
That's right. They have a recording record. So they have computer records and photographs that he took that made it back to Earth.
Or they're assuming may have made it back to Earth.
Mm-hmm.
That's just it. Or would it be destroyed in the blast? But I guess, that's what I'm saying is it makes sense why they're going down, because they don't know yes or no whether the information was damaged, so they go down to recover it just in case.
Absolutely, that's exactly the reason why this whole rest of the episode happens. Spock says, we cannot return him to Earth, Captain. He already knows too much about us and is learning more. I do not specifically refer to Captain Christopher, but suppose an unscrupulous man were to gain certain knowledge of man's future. Such a man could manipulate key industries, stocks, and even nations, and in so doing, Change what must be. And if it is changed, Captain, you and I and all that we know might not even exist.
Yeah, let's discuss all this right in front of him, right?
Yeah, it kind of does. But you know what? This isn't for him. It's exposition to the audience who are not used to such time travel in their stories on TV back in the 1960s. So today that would be a really weird paragraph to even say.
Yeah, you wouldn't say that in front of him, right? None of that. But oh well.
Yeah. Then Kirk says, Captain's log, supplemental. Engineering officer Scott informs warp engines damaged, but can be made operational and re-energized.
Computing.
And I think in that scene, one of the scenes in this episode, you can see that Scotty's James Doohan is missing a finger.
Yeah, I have that clip.
Oh, you do? Okay, well, this is the time to play it.
This is the time to play it. All right, let me pull it up here.
All right, Jimmy. We're going to need you to count to 5. Can you do it?
Before we get into Majel's
right, I'll make this quick.
Great.
Okay, there we go. And there's the clip there. If you look by the console, down by where Scotty's resting his hand on the... You can count his fingers. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yes.
Right. So this is one of the few times where you do get a glimpse of that missing finger, and you can see which one it is. It's basically his second finger.
And I really don't even notice. I had to look this up because he does a good job of kind of maneuvering them in a way that you're not really paying attention because he's busy.
Well, right. And when your attention is on him and him speaking, and maybe the lights behind him, but you're not looking at his hand, right?
Right.
Thank you, Jill.
You're welcome. And thank you. That lined up perfectly. So, of course, we know Majel Barrett has played the computer before this episode, but this is the first time she plays the computer when it has a little personality. And it's kind of funny that the computer has a personality in this episode. And the animated series episode that we're going to review next Monday, The Practical Joker, will also have a bit of an attitude.
Yep.
So, in this case, the computer ended up this way because they repaired the ship at Signet 14, a planet dominated by women, so a matriarchal society, who saw fit to upgrade the Enterprise with this personality. Since we don't hear the computer talking this way for the rest of the original series, we know that they repaired this issue. But it's pretty funny here. I enjoyed it, and here's what the book says about it. Here's a quote from Kirk. Computer, you will not address me in that manner. And although NBC executives had given Gene Roddenberry an unprecedented second chance to sell them on his wagon train to the stars concept, they instructed him to eliminate the character of Enterprise's female officer known as Number One from all future Star Trek offerings. Still, veteran television writer Samuel A. Peoples, who had been tagged by Roddenberry to write the second Star Trek pilot, felt there might be a way to retain the intriguing character, not as a human female, but as the personality of the ship's computer. Peoples postulated that in the future, astronauts, presumably all male, might experience psychological problems on an extended space mission. Sans female companionship. Giving a ship's computer female voice, he reasoned, as well as programming it for simple conversation, might assuage this problem. Peoples even pushed the envelope a little further, suggesting that an upgrade gone awry might give the Enterprise's computer a personality circuit, allowing her to fall in love with her captain. This female computer named Number One would be fully capable of thinking for herself. She would watch out for the entire ship's complement, even to the point of going contrary to their wishes, if this is in their best interests. In such cases, she becomes all machine, with potentials no human can ever approach. Number 1 would sometimes be vain, jealous, and capable of pouting, like any female, when things don't work out her way. People's particular take on number 1 never made it onto the Enterprise. However, something very like his pouty computer did make a brief appearance in Tomorrow is Yesterday, when viewers learned that the ship's computer has received a less than satisfactory upgrade that irritates, the text is kind of small here, irritates Captain Kirk to no end. The late Majel Barrett, who played number 1 in the cage, provided the respectably dispassionate female voice of the Enterprise computer throughout the entire run of the series. Yes, every iteration of Star Trek. Real Star Trek. And also in the spin-off shows and films. Her last performance of the Enterprise computer was in that 2009 movie. So there we go. That's some fun history.
It is fun history. It's nice to know that Majel Barrett was in the 2009.
That was a movie.
It was a movie in color.
Mm-hmm. Played in theaters, even. And Chris is told that he can't go home because his knowledge of the future could change the future. And that his absence would have less of an effect because he makes no relevant contribution. But he has a wife and kids, so there's his motivation to escape. And of course, he does try. And regarding the relevant contribution, I do know that is a strange fixation because the butterfly effect says just the act of going into the past and just by breathing, just by going to the past, you're changing the future. Of course, the butterfly, of course, the concept of the butterfly effect actually doesn't come up officially until the late 1980s. So the time that this episode is
you're
written,
talking about perhaps in film and television, but it was when Bradbury wrote it. It's much older than that.
Mm-hmm.
But the public consciousness and people being aware of it wasn't until
right. Chaos effect would definitely be much older than that. I'm saying the actual coining of the phrase and its popularization was later.
Well, it was The Sound of Thunder. I'm looking at it now to get the exact date. 1952.
Mm-hmm. And what did they call it in that movie?
It was the butterfly effect.
No, he didn't call it. Right, Bradbury in the story of Sound of Thunder, he likened it to a butterfly, and then he said, if you step on a butterfly, it'd be like a footprint across eternity.
Oh, he did. Okay, thank you for correcting me. That is really important. That because I didn't get into it that much, so I'm glad that you said that.
Right. Excellent story, by the way. Excellent read and an excellent episode of Ray Bradbury Theater. If you guys get to catch it,
Bradbury. Very cool.
In fact, now the term has been used so much that a lot of people don't even remember where it originated.
Mm-hmm.
I always thought Ashton.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't either. Well, I didn't think it was that late.
I've met people that thought it originated in The Simpsons. I was like, oh no.
Well, okay. See, I was wrong, but at least I wasn't that bad. Oh my god.
No, that's all right. Yeah, The Simpsons. You guys saw that episode, right? Where with Homer, I guess. So
that's something that was out there, but the Star Trek writers just missed it, just like I did. So I forgive them because I missed it too. So also, yeah. So then we get our next captain's log. Stardate 3113.7. Our engines are being repaired, but we're still locked down. We're still locked in time. And we have aboard a passenger whom we do not want and we cannot return. So Christopher jumps a red shirt and takes his phaser. Meanwhile,
poor red shirt should have known.
Christopher takes his phaser. And Kirk arrives just in time to disarm him.
Yep. Don't underestimate Kirk.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and James Caserta is here. Never fear. Fear a little. Oh, and also Mr. Angel is here. With Microsoft investing $10 billion in a chat bit, Snappy and sassy computers are closer than we might think or want.
Well, I'm sure with, what is it, Alexa and all that,
chatbot.
you probably program it to where it sounds that way, I'm guessing. So we're almost
yeah,
there, right?
I don't have an Alexa, but yeah, definitely.
Neither do I. It creeps me out.
Well, and even with the navigation systems that you used to be able to get, like Garmin's and whatever, and you put them on your dashboard, they used to have different voices you could download. You
yeah.
get, like,
well,
Mr.
Google
T.
Maps does what Google Maps does too. I have a female British voice for my Google Maps.
I went Australian female myself.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the stock voice sounds like Stephen Hawking or something like that, if I remember right. And it's like, yeah, you can't really take that very much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Cardinal Sin says, you think that Gene Roddenberry, having flown 80 combat missions in World War II, that he would have known about the wing cameras and the black box on Christopher's plane. And then Euler Greg says, actresses were technically brilliant in the mid part of the 20th century, as Spock could verify.
Wait, you mean actresses or do you mean women in military?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure Spock's familiarity with Hollywood.
Yeah, right. I don't know what happened there. But Herc 130 says, I'm trying to catch up with the stream at 1.75. Oh no. And notice everyone's voice speeds up, except Jill's voice sounds exactly the same.
I guess we sound like chipmunks.
Go figure. I thought I was the one who sounded like a chipmunk. That would mean that I always do.
Well, I know that YouTube has an algorithm where it can make your voice somewhat sound normal, but I didn't know it was just the host.
Mm-hmm. Euler Greg says the Jill effect, it's called. And Cardinal Sin continues, kind of like the computer in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy that has a real personality problem. Oh, yeah. And also the robot.
What about the Millennium Falcon? Ugh.
Mm-hmm. And Bunyan Snipes says, if a butterfly flaps its wings, it can affect the air around it and end up making a volcano erupt.
I thought it was a typhoon. It could cause a tsunami halfway across the world.
Yes. And Admiral Teague says there's a butterfly effect driving the story of the city on the edge of forever, whether they call it that or not. Edith Keeler surviving until FDR is an event they cause and have to undo.
True story.
Deej Odyssey is here. Hey, Deej.
Hey, Deej.
He says, Captain's log. Well, flush that dang thing. Tennis ball thrown against the wall. Tennis ball thrown against the wall. Greetings. I know what he's referring to. It's a video that I do not have. James Caserta. Hello. And hello to Deej.
Hello, James.
Hey, James.
And Mr. Angel says, anti-derivative Jill, I just tried to access your Discord, but the link on your YouTube page is not working. Oh, no. Okay, well, thank you. I will check that out later. It's called Harlan Ellison. Yes, that is his name.
Yes, City on the Edge of Forever.
Can't wait for that one. So Christopher ends up in sick bay, and Spock explains that he was wrong, that Christopher would make no contribution. He says, poor choice of
right in front of him, makes no contribution.
I know, right? Again, right in front of him. It's so rude. But Spock doesn't have any concern for being rude. Poor choice of words on my part. I neglected in my initial run-through to correlate the possible contributions by offspring. I find, after running a cross-check on that factor, that your son, Colonel Sean Jeffrey Christopher, headed, or will head, the first successful Earth-Saturn probe, which is rather significant. Yes. Mm-hmm. And so in 2004, Earth does explore Saturn with Cassini, with the Cassini probe, which given Christopher's age would be around when his son would be old enough to lead that mission. So it's about right. So Now that he knows he's going to be a daddy, he suddenly becomes very helpful. And he knows he's going to get to go back also. He tells them that he took photos and recordings of the Enterprise that the crew now knows they have to go to the Air Force Base to retrieve. And
I have some trivia here, if I could share it really quick, touching on what you were just talking about his son.
Yes.
Spock says that Captain Christopher's son headed the first Earth-Saturn probe in 2004. The Cassini-Huygens spacecraft reached Saturn and its moons. There, the spacecraft began orbiting the system, beaming back information, and the Huygens probe entered the murky atmosphere of Titan, Saturn's biggest moon. Huygens descended via parachute onto its surface and reported its findings. While there was no Colonel Sean Jeffrey Christopher on the Cassini project, the timing is just about right.
Yeah, that's pretty great. I love the predictions in this episode that pretty much come true. And so they that way. Okay, so now the crew knows that they have to go to the Air Force Base. So that way, if they destroy the records, all Chris will have to do, all he'll have with him is a story, and they can't prove any of it. And here the book says a little more about the episode. Let's see if there's anything new here. Oh no, I messed it up. Here it is. And Captain Christopher says, I have never believed in little green men. And Spock says, neither have I. Writing should be about characters, says screenwriter DC Fontana. I like the action too, but the foundation I work from is always the characters. Whether drawn from the gem of an idea that she originated or from a story concept she's been asked to expand and transform. Fontana's scripts always emphasize the human element of an adventure. The concept for Tomorrow is Yesterday originated with Star Trek producer Robert Justman. The basics are all there in the short memo Justman sent to Gene Roddenberry. An accident flings the Enterprise into the past, where it is spotted on 20th century Earth radar and identified as a UFO. Kirk realizes that knowledge of the Enterprise's existence could alter the course of history, and as Spock puts it in the aired episode, if it is changed, Captain, you and I and all that we know might not even exist. Roddenberry assigned the story to Dorothy Fontana. She in turn...
Sorry.
That's okay. She in turn created a memorable teleplay that gave meaty roles to both the regulars and to guest star Roger Perry as Air Force Captain John Christopher, a man who is, at various times, amusing, reacting to the Vulcan first officer, irksome, stubbornly refusing to accept Kirk's decree that he cannot return home, and sentimental, absorbing the news that his not yet conceived son will someday head a mission to Saturn. In short, he's as human as they come. Fontana added plenty of action and humor to the mix, and showed a touch of precognition when she had Kirk cite from memory that Earth's first manned moon shot was in the late 1960s. Earth's first manned moon landing occurred in 1969, just 3 years after this episode hit the airwaves, and just a few short months after Star Trek aired its final first-run episode. Okay. And Mr. Angel says, Jill, could you please post a link in here? Thank you. A link to my Discord?
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's good.
We're currently just down for maintenance, I suppose.
Oh, Discord is?
I don't know. Do you have a link handy for Discord? I didn't even know you had a Discord.
Well, I don't know.
If you want to take a look, I don't know.
I think I'm gonna have to do that later and get back to you, Mr. Angel, because that requires some investigation.
But don't forget to follow and Jill on Twitter, where she'll post her Discord link. Antiderivative 1.
Yeah, well, no, you know what, Mr. Angel, I see her all the time on Cloudburn Times channel. So when I figure it out, I'll share it with you when I can. And I'll update my YouTube page also.
Bingo, bango.
Yeah. And Cardinal Sin says, "Oh, it is ghastly. Life. Don't talk to me about life."
No, stop,
Oh, wait.
stop.
Okay,
stop,
you read it.
Stop.
You read it.
Oh, it is ghastly. Life. Don't talk to me about life. Brain the size of a planet, and they want me to pick up a piece of paper.
Oh, it took me a minute to realize that was Hitchhikers.
Sorry, I didn't mean to jump all over it, but
Please, thank you. No, that's awesome. That was very good.
And then Mr. Angel says, the issue, by the way, might be that you used a link with a timestamp that ended. Oh, it's going to be fixed. We have crews, top men.
Mm-hmm. Admiral Teague says, who doesn't remember that heady day in 2004 when Sean J. Christopher landed that probe on Saturn? Good times.
I had a party.
Second man on the moon, says Admiral Teague, Colonel Buzz Aldrin, married on his 93rd birthday just days ago.
Yeah,
good for him. True. Absolutely.
And his wife's hot.
Wow. And yeah, I love all the spacefaring news today. Incredible. And history. And so the crew heads to the planet, the Air Force Base. It's nighttime. A guard's patrolling the corridors, but he doesn't see him.
I do like how bemused they are, just walking around like it's a museum.
Yeah, right. Like, hey, look at this paper.
What the?
And the trophy case. Yeah, they do.
Oh, and then the lockpick device.
Yeah, is this a Star Trek sonic screwdriver?
Yes, it is. If there are no follow-up questions, we'll run with that.
Kirk, well, it works to open the door, and
the lock is not made of wood, so it should. Yeah. Hey, it's Gallifreyan technology on Star Trek. We've got a crossover, ladies and gentlemen.
It is a time travel episode.
It's true. Oh my stars!
And so they.
Oh yeah, look at that computer.
I do love how they say that Starfleet Academy teaches history and technology so that Kirk and Sulu do recognize these devices are primitive computers and are going to take the tapes rather than risking starting one up and making noise.
So they're assuming that the wreckage was already recovered and that they're already examining the tapes, apparently, I guess.
Yes, they think that everything is already there, and luckily they're right. You're right. It's such a recent mission that it probably isn't likely that it's already been recorded.
Usually the recovery would take a few days at least. Yeah,
mm-hmm.
Little while.
So realistically, you're right. But for the sake of the story, it's all already here.
So it's right here. Yeah, they leave those. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they leave those top secret tapes right here. But okay.
Well, on an airbase in a locked room.
Well, it just seemed to me like if those were the tapes that, if you split hairs down the middle, either they had not viewed what was on the tapes yet, or it seemed like if they would have viewed what was already on the tapes, they'd immediately pull them and send them off to Washington or to SAT Command, Strategic Air Command. But I could be wrong. It just doesn't seem like it would still be in the computer. But oh well.
This is a good point, but it's there. Sean Cotter says that was great news for Buzz, but people were attacking him on Twitter. People sure are scumbags. What, attacking him?
Who's Buzz?
Rude. Buzz Aldrin.
Oh,
he got married to a younger woman on his 90th.
Jealous.
Yeah, exactly. They're jealous.
I wonder if they're thinking it's like the Nicole Brown's, or what was that lady's name who married the old man, Nicole
Kidman?
Anna Nicole Smith.
That's it.
Anna Nicole
right.
Smith. Okay.
She married an old man right before he died, and there was a big struggle over his all his money. He was a rich man, and there was a big struggle between her and his family. I remember that.
Yeah.
I think the situation would probably be between Buzz and his wife.
That's their business
depends,
for sure.
Right. Well, it's up to him if he writes a will, right?
Sean Carter says, I congratulated Buzz on Twitter and told him I would not try to make any jokes about docking maneuvers. And James Caserta says that he's twitchy enough. And Cardinal Sim says, you go, Buzz.
Yeah.
Admiral Teague says, Pop Culture Curator can probably verify the US AF guards actually did use revolvers rather than automatics. I always thought it was the wrong prop.
Well, to be exact, they never use automatic. And because remember, an automatic is where you pull the trigger and bang, 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 it shoots like that. Pistols aren't automatics.
But a revolver as opposed to...
Right. Well, it could have been revolvers, but honestly, I think he's thinking more like a Glock with a black handle rather than the wooden handle. And I was thinking about that too when I was watching this. I think they just pulled them out of because they filmed a lot of Westerns. So when you see the security guard, the head security guard interrogating Kirk, he's got a gun with a wooden handle, and I'm not sure I've ever seen that, but I didn't serve in the 60s. But I'm guessing they probably did not have wooden handles. They probably had black handles. If that answers the question.
Yeah, thank you. And I like this scene too, where McCoy is worried and Spock has a logical answer. And so McCoy says, I would have gotten a clip of this if I had time. Shouldn't you be working on your time warp calculations, Mr. Spock? And just standing there staring, he counters, I am.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So, of course, Spock can compute these calculations in his mind. I need a pencil and paper to calculate my time travel coordinates.
I need a calculator to calculate.
Yeah.
I just need a Spock.
Right.
Oh, it's my favorite actor from the episode. It's this guy. He is an amazing actor as long as he doesn't talk.
Oh, yeah. His name is Hal something.
Yep. Hal. Good old
Well, this is his
Hal.
second appearance in Trek, isn't it, that we've seen so far, I think? I'm trying to
What was he
remember
in? What was the first one? I'm hoping he didn't talk in that one either.
Yeah, what's sad is when we watched the first episode with him in it, we referred then and said we'll see him again, and tomorrow was yesterday. But I'm trying to rack my brain for what it was. Maybe it'll hit me before we're done with the stream.
Well, I can go take a look. He's my best friend, Hal. So I'm going to go. Yeah. There we go. Hal Lynch.
Go check him out.
I'm going to check out Hal Lynch, Air Force Police Sergeant. Oh, it only says no. He was only in one episode.
Oh, really? Well, it could be. Maybe it's even.
According to IMDb.
Oh, I believe you. I could be mistaking him for another person on here, but there was somebody on this episode who was on a previous one. I just have to remember which one it is.
And I remember you saying that. So yes.
Mm-hmm. And of course, he gets their supplies and everything.
Now, notice that the communicators are open, which means that should automatically contact the ship, you would think. So you would think Uhura could hear them talking right now.
That makes sense. But I have questions about the communicators, too. That is a good point. McCoy is still worried, so now Spock agrees and sends an emergency signal to the communicator. And this prompts the transporter room to beam back the person holding the communicator, which is a sergeant who just caught Kirk and Sulu snooping around. He's beamed up with the communicator and his gun via that emergency signal. I'm not sure why it wasn't protocol to beam up Sulu or Kirk or everyone within a certain radius. Because if you're going to beam up somebody in an emergency, you would think you'd beam up the people who are on the mission.
But then you could be beaming up the antagonist or whoever the bad guy is.
Right. And then, well, that's what happens here anyway.
Yeah.
But this episode also made me question what the rules are for beaming up, because I think at this point it's unclear what the Enterprise can scan and transport back to the ship. So I'll have to go back, and I didn't have time for as much of an investigation on this as I wanted to. But I will follow that thread for future episodes, because this is going to be a thing that's going to come up again.
Well, and also we would assume, because I don't know how the sensors are working in this particular instance, whether or not they know that Sulu and Kirk may not even be together.
Right.
And then also, if they do just intend to beam up the landing party, they wouldn't beam up 3 people. It would be this guy and either Sulu or Kirk if the sensors are going, because there are 3 people at the beam
right.
out.
Right. That's what's unclear to me. How much can the sensors detect who is being sensed? Like,
I wanted to bring
can
up
they distinguish just that they're human or more?
Yeah, I wanted to bring up a point that Bunyan Snipe brings up. I know you haven't gotten to that point of the chat where he says white laces. You're right. Security guard would not have. It probably wouldn't even be wearing boots. It would just be standard black dress shoes, and also the beret he's wearing. You guys will see the emblems on the side of his head, which that's not what's called AR-15 regulation. That the emblem on the side of his hat should actually be above his eye. I believe it's his right eye.
No, I thought it was left eye, but never mind.
Could be left eye. I wasn't a security guard, so I didn't wear a beret, but I know it was directly above one of the eyes. But you can't expect perfection. Even the badges are on his clothing are crooked, which would be unheard of.
Wow.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, don't be sorry. That is some cool stuff. I wouldn't have picked that up anywhere without your description. That's wonderful. Thank you. Admiral Teague says Aldrin's wife is 63. It's not as insane as it looks in the pictures.
That's what I thought the case would be. Yeah, I thought that she was older. She would be older than she looked.
No, but it's funny. He's still old enough to be her father. He's still old enough to be her dad. That's funny.
James Caserta.
It's Viagra.
Okay, well, I might as well read it now. Viagra is a planet in the Taurus system. So Bunyan Snipe says Colt 45s usually had wooden grips.
Gotcha. Thank you, Bunyan.
Colt 911s rather. He corrects himself. Brown plastic, actually, but it looks like wood. Baker Light. Oh wow, Bunyan Snipe really knows his guns.
Thanks, Bunyan.
James Caserta.
Hired as armorer.
Yes. James Caserta says somebody insulted Buzz by telling him the moon landing was fake, and he punched him out.
It's on YouTube. It's one of the greatest.
It's very funny.
Awesome.
And Frank Walker says you would do a wide beam up. That's what I'm thinking of. Definitely. Bunyan Snipe says the early models were probably wood. So, Captain's Log, Stardate 3113.9. First Officer Spock recording. Due to an unfortunate accident, we have taken board another unwanted passenger. So, the sergeant is catatonic while McCoy gently takes the gun and communicator away from him.
He absolutely conveys silent terror perfectly.
And that right there, that man needs some serious retraining, because that's not what a security guard should be doing. He should be assessing the situation and at least trying to take control over what's going on.
All right.
Yes.
I will allow a lot of things, but let's think about what Hal has gone through here. All right. So Hal goes, he finds some intruders in the record section, and suddenly he is instantly teleported into a shiny room with an alien looking at him. How composed do you want Hal to be right now?
Well, see, that's just it. But at a minimum, when he panic, or at least, he is
panicking.
Yep. Well, no, he's actually just standing there. But I think what it comes down to is just timing.
He is frozen in terror.
Right, but I think it's the same reason that Christopher didn't. Well, he immediately was so jovial. I think it was a matter of, because it's timing in the script, and they didn't want to deviate from having these guys go wild and having to have a conflict with them and put them in the brig and all that kind of stuff.
I think it's just perfectly reasonable for a person in an incredible situation to respond this way.
Well, it is funny. I mean, I laughed at it when I've seen it, but
I believe that Christopher behaves the way that you're describing, the way that he should behave. He was skeptical of everything and asking questions.
Well, and yeah, when Christopher shows up and he's immediately also, I think it's a higher adrenaline situation when he was piloting the jet. So he may have already been at that heightened state, so he wouldn't be frozen in terror by being teleported for the first time ever.
That's what I'm saying. You think you at least see a little bit of fear from one of these guys or something.
That guy looks really scared.
No, I mean a physical reaction. I'm talking about actually panic.
Freezing in terror is a saying.
Okay.
So having
it's conduct not becoming an officer is what I would say. That's something that he could get in trouble for.
I'm sorry, sir. I was teleported by people from the future.
He doesn't know what. You got to remember, at this point, he doesn't know what teleport is. All he knows
is he's in one place, and then he's immediately in another place.
In another place. What would you call it? Well, that's what I'm saying. That's the point where you would think he would grab his gun and say, "Oh, what is this? Stand back, everybody! Where are we? What's going on?" You think that kind of reaction.
We need Danny DeVito from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. So I start blasting.
Yeah, that's why I think Christopher did do that. He didn't have a gun with him. Otherwise, he would have done that. He was more in control of his situation than the sergeant was, because he at least did respond.
I think the reason why. When I think it through, I think the reason why the security guard didn't do what he would do in real life, and that's by panicking and trying to take control, is because the crew of the Enterprise would only have two options, and that would be to stun him with a phaser or for Spock to give him the nerve pinch. But I don't think they would do that, because that's making them look like bullies basically on him, because he's an innocent man. And he didn't ask to be in that situation. I think it's the character that would have made them look bad. And I think that's why they handled it the way they did.
Maybe.
I could be wrong.
That's an interesting idea. Could be. So, having the records, they head to the photo lab to pick up photos Christopher took of the Enterprise. And this intrusion causes a light to flash on the Enterprise.
Notice the handwritten writing. I love it, don't you?
Yes. Just painted on there.
It's just painted on there by hand, literally by hand, right?
Mm-hmm. And it's showing that someone is in the photo section. Kirk walks out of the main lab just as security walks in.
Oh, and yeah. And so security walks in. Hey, you, come out of there. So Kirk goes and checks, and so he just runs at the first guy, pushes him into the, oh my God, all over these film cans, and they crash into the thing. One guy tries to tackle at Kirk, but he scurries out from underneath, and he runs back. All right, and so now we got all three guys. They're all in the corner. He jumps, and he does this cool, like, flying through the air thing, so he takes out all three. Then he picks up the guy, the lead officer, punches him in the face, turns around, throws this guy against the thing, and he's down. Okay, and he's like playing possum, so he's punching and just wailing on this guy. But then the guy who was playing possum in the side, he grabs his leg, and so then the other two guys, they come over and they grab both his arms, so Kirk can't do anything anymore. And that's when I think it's Colonel Fellini is his name. I forget his name.
Yes, that's right. Colonel
Fellini. Yeah,
you got it.
So Colonel Fellini's like, all right, where's your partner? But yeah,
I've had enough of this, right?
So that
incredible.
Yeah.
I always wish they would use that music.
I wish we could play it. I know it's sad.
But this was a very good fight scene. Well described. Thank you, Scotty.
Oh, hey, Star Trek fight scenes. And you know what? No real obvious stunt doubles either.
No, it didn't really stand out. And this is, it's those fight scenes are what I sorely miss in future Trek. It's like, it was one of my favorite parts of the old series.
Oh, man, you got to see the taking of DS9 by the Klingon Armada. It's awesome. You'll love it the most.
Mm-hmm.
Crooked, look at his buckle. But I guess that's from the fight.
That's after the fight, yeah.
Yeah, that's his excuse. It's a good excuse.
Turtlenecks, interesting.
And when Kirk is eventually restrained and the Colonel takes a look in the dark room, it's empty because Sulu's decided to beam up.
Right.
Scotty's able to restore warp power, and Spock is marveling at how terrible 1960s photography is. And so,
well, in real life, Leonard Nimoy was a photographer, so that's kind of funny.
That is funny. He was. He had books. He has books out and everything of his photography work. That's a good point. And so again, McCoy says, "Blast your theories and observations."
Bones again.
Mr. Spock, what about Jim? He's down there alone, probably under arrest. He doesn't have a communicator, and we can't locate him or beam him back aboard without one. Which, it seems like a strange rule to me, but I'm going to have to look into that more later.
Okay, sounds good.
Mm-hmm. So this is one of my favorite scenes coming up here, where Kirk tries to communicate with Colonel Fellini.
That's where Spock says poor photography is.
Yeah, he does. And Kirk says that he popped in out of thin air. And tries to explain.
See, there's the gun. You can see the handle.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, I see it. And the Colonel threatens Kirk with the charge for sabotage, espionage, unauthorized entry, burglary, and more, and that he'll have to lock Kirk up for 200 years, which Kirk quips is just about right, which was right when the episode was made, but now we know that the Enterprise was actually in the 23rd century.
Right, timeline hadn't quite been established yet in Star Trek canon.
Correct. So that joke, if they ever wanted to update it, should be 300 years. And Christopher lobbies to go down to the surface to better help Spock find Kirk more quickly, while the sergeant orders some chicken soup. And Kyle puts in a card in the slot, and the hatch reveals a bowl and a tray, and the sergeant dips his finger in it to taste it. Oh yeah, I like how Spock has to move Christopher onto the transporter pad. Just a fun detail. And this episode is the first of 2 episodes to have a food synthesizer in the transporter room.
Yes.
According to DC Fontana, budgetary restrictions precluded taking the security police sergeant to a dining facility or another actor in the
So the Enterprise at this point, it had food synthesizers and a kitchen?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
So Kyle was employed to provide the sergeant's chicken soup. Several episodes later in Star Trek This Side of Paradise, Spock smashed his fist through one of the transporter room's food synthesizers.
That is correct.
So Captain Christopher walks past the guard on duty, and for once, Sulu gets to chop someone unconscious. So that's fun. So let me see what's going on in the chat here.
Surprise at the door.
Mm-hmm. Oh, really? Oh, yeah. So Herc 130 says, I just looked up the tail number of the F104. F-104. It crashed in Thailand in 1967 from engine failure. It was originally from George Air Force Base, northeast of Los Angeles.
Wow, it's incredible. Yeah, thank you, Herc. That's excellent. That's excellent bit of trivia to know.
That is exceptional.
Hopefully the pilot was able to eject
research
safely.
Yes. I do hope so too. And great. Franco Walker agrees. Great fact. I wonder if they knew at the time. Whoa, what's that from? I don't know what James Caserta is talking about.
Maybe the fight, Kurt putting up the fight and the struggle.
Oh, justifiable assault and battery. Yeah, and everybody was flying everywhere. It was great. Bunyan Snipe says if there's a transporter malfunction, what's left of me is in the trash.
Throw what's left of me into trash, I think is what he means.
Oh.
He or she.
All right. Yeah. Oh, right. Like if you're merged with somebody like Tuvix. Sean Carter says Christopher already knew he was looking at a UFO. And as a pilot, has better training than a sergeant, schlepping security rounds half asleep. Oh, yeah, that's right. That is what the sergeant was doing. He was just hanging around. James.
Well, you think that when the sergeant walked in that room, he would have noticed that the door was unlocked.
Mm-hmm. I think, yeah. Something makes him going.
Yeah.
Sorry, I had to step away for a second. Did I miss the chicken soup?
Yeah, you missed the chicken soup.
Thank God. I missed the part where he was talking. I hate that part.
Well, what do you have a note on the chicken soup?
My God. Just the worst delivery in the history of anything. I don't know. Maybe some chicken soup? Like, what the hell? Like, pop culture curator, if you want to bust this guy down to private as fast as possible, it's just for that willy-nilly, oh my God, I don't know, maybe some chicken soup. It's not a hotel, dude. You're supposed to be terrified. Anyway.
I would be afraid to eat or consume anything, but
yeah.
Me.
And what a weird thing to ask for. Are you hungry? Yes. What would you like? Soup. What? The hell?
Yeah.
Anyway, I apologize.
I don't know. I might ask for chicken. I like
you really. You're in a strange place. You don't know what's going on. The crazy man is that.
Yes.
You got to ask for tacos in that situation.
I mean,
yeah, exactly.
I'd have to be starving. You're right.
May I have an empanada, please? And what kind of wine pairing would you suggest with that? Fucking hell. Sorry for the swear.
James Caserta says, well, he didn't write the script.
No, he just said it badly.
James Caserta says, Shatner threw his heart and soul into everything he did.
Absolutely.
That is always worth reading. Admiral Teague says, Buzz Aldrin was 75 when he punched out that moon landing denier. No charges were pressed, as is patriotic.
Yeah, well, I think Buzz Aldrin has a get out of jail free card.
Well, now he would be right now. He'd be Me Too to oblivion, but yeah,
for punching a dude.
Oh yes,
you don't get Me Too'd for punching a dude. That's not how Me Too works.
Well, no, I guess you're right. Will Smith got away with it, so yeah. You're right.
No, that's just canceled. That's just backlash for being a jerk. But when you go up to the man who walked on the moon, like one of the first, yeah.
Today, it's all about collecting a check. Bunyan Snipe says, Scottish regiments have the beret badge on the side of the head.
Very possible.
James Caserta says, in the transporter room? Yeah, you got to eat before you transport. I don't know.
I thought you were supposed to wait an hour for transporting out. You got to be on an empty stomach or something?
I think that's swimming, Scotty.
Oh, my mistake.
Cardinal Sin says, this reminds me of an episode of Stargate SG-1 where Colonel O'Neill is being interrogated by an officer from our past. And he says that he is Captain James T. Kirk. And then he says, no, I lied. My name is Luke Skywalker.
Nice.
Yes, that is great.
Darth Vader. I came down from the planet Vulcan.
Mm-hmm. And Eugene Bird agrees. Tacos.
Yeah.
Would be the appropriate thing to order.
Well, and they'd be unlimited tacos, really, because it's a replica. No, it's a food dispenser, so it wouldn't be unlimited.
It wouldn't be unlimited. It would be limited to ship stores.
Yeah.
So, but he would probably die before he ate the amount of
tacos and margaritas for everyone. Yeah.
Computer, can I get a taco? Unfortunately, what happened to all the tacos? Hal ate them.
And well, he didn't eat them. He ordered them, and they're all sitting in the transporter room.
There you go. Yeah.
Stinking the place up.
Eugene Bird says, we had a bus driver We had bus driver dress uniforms in the Air Force, but not white ascots.
Yeah, I kind of learned about the white ascots.
Dark Helmet is here. Hello, Dark Helmet. I'm going to have to challenge Cardinal Sin to SG1 knowledge one day. Oh yeah, definitely do go over to Cardinal Sin's channel. Make sure you're subscribed and ring the bell, because when he has his midnight to midnight shows, those are where you might have some fun like that. Or also his trivia shows, which he does occasionally on Sundays.
Nice.
Franco Walker says you always have soup as a starter.
Yes.
Yeah, see, Franco Walker's on my side.
There you go. May I have a carb salad, please? And I'd like some sparkling wine. Do you have a Pellegrino that I'd be able to have with this? Delightful. Thank you.
James Caserta says Star Trek was real.
Oh my God. I knew it. I knew it.
And
Dark Helmet. Hey, Dark Helmet.
Yeah, he's here.
He is. Are they fighting again?
And Kirk punched him again. Kirk punches the guy again. That's funny.
Yeah, right. Spock arrives to neck pinch hapless airman while Kirk knocks out Colonel Fellini. Spock confirms that they got all the records they needed to erase the proof of the Enterprise being in low Earth orbit. And when everything seems resolved, Christopher tries to stay on Earth. He pulled the gun at them.
Definitely a revolver.
Mm-hmm.
But Spock is around. Comes around behind and neck pinches him so that Kirk can decide the proper way to send him home. Captain's log, stardate 3114.1. We must make an attempt to break free of this time, or we and our reluctant passengers will remain its prisoners. All we have is a theory and a few facts.
Uh-oh.
You would think. Yeah, indeed. This is the part. See, the time travel at the beginning of the episode is beautiful. It's a natural phenomenon. It's an accident. They didn't mean to do it. But they've got to get back home somehow. And for me, I would think that just having gotten all the proof, they could just leave the captain and the sergeant there. But Mr. Spock believes they can travel to a time before the entire event occurred to drop them off so that they have no memory of what just occurred before slingshotting back to the future. Mr. Spock says, Mr. Scott and I both agree that the only possible solution is the slingshot effect. Like the one that put us here, my computations indicate that if we fly toward the sun, seek out its magnetic attraction, then pull away at full power, the whiplash will propel us into another time warp. And Spock continues, logically, as we move faster and faster toward the sun, we'll begin to move backward in time. We'll actually go back beyond yesterday, beyond the point when we first appeared in the sky. Then, breaking free, will shoot us forward in time. And we'll transport you back before any of this happened. And so Kirk says, you won't have anything to remember because it never would have happened. Further, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't. See, this is one of the weird things, and this is going to be, am I allowed to bring up Marvel time travel, or do I, as a comparison?
Everything you told me last night, I agree completely with you, me.
Okay, so in terms of Marvel, like Avengers Endgame time travel, and actually discussing this episode made me come to grips with that time travel, is, say, me personally, I go back in time. I individually, as a human, I am moving forward in time no matter what. My body is always going to be traveling progressively forward in time. But if my destination is the past as a destination is still my future. So from 2022 to 1966 is still in my future. So when I get there, that will be my present. And even if I'm from 1966, go to 2022, and then go back to 1960, like, you're still going to remember things because you chronologically move on a forward trajectory no matter what. You don't forget things just because you've traveled in time, because you still maintain your cognitive recollection of your own past.
Yes.
Yes,
that makes sense? Yes, that makes sense to me, because
especially because you're on the time machine or in the time machine itself.
Yeah, so I believe that Spock is mistaken that this will erase any of the time travel that had happened. It still happened. They will have memory of it. And
yes,
I agree with you, Scotty.
It's kind of it's a conceit that I don't agree with, and so this is where things start. The House of Cards starts to get caught in a breeze.
But do remember that this is written in the 60s, and this is when.
Yes, because in 1987, as we all remember, when we cracked time travel and it became a reality.
Yeah, that's right. So. Yeah. No, you know what I mean? Like, it's fictions. It's still kind of, I know that time travel was talked about back in the 1800s, but this is kind of where time travel is kind of more thought about more intimately.
Well, it becomes more like, obviously, H.G. Wells and the Time Machine, and the
James
film
sort of has your answer.
and that's ultimately what it comes down to, and that's. But we had this discussion, and this has been a conversation that's been going on across several channels. Is if we're going into these episodes with the premise of discussing the inner logic, pardon me, or the rules within the universe of the stories being told, dissection is warranted. But I still enjoy the emotional satisfaction of the stories themselves. But if I'm going to agree to a conversation about what are the technical aspects of this technology and what are the sciences being applied to the world that we're being presented, then I have to set that one aside. But James Caserta, that's printed on my business card. Yes. Because Star Trek was just a TV show.
Well, and what I was thinking was you would think that they could have, if they want, the writers, speculating, they could have said, well, perhaps they had a way of wiping memories. Maybe they had the technology in the future.
That's what I was hoping that they were going to do.
But then that kind of leads into sinister things. You're thinking that
right, because that harkens back to Dagger of the Mind and how evil that was.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But
But Dr. Pulaski gets really good at it.
Yeah, she does. But do the ends justify the means in that case? If they did do a mind wipe, not changing the future, that's what they might have reasoned. Admiral Teague says, we don't get a reason why beaming the people from 1966 back to the moment we beam them up reboots their brains and erases their memories, do we? No, we don't. And that's how we come up with the conclusion that their minds have not, in fact, been wiped. But it doesn't have an effect on the future, apparently.
Mark Twain, too. But Mark Twain...
James, for the same reason you can't remember Trek 2000. Because it's not Trek.
I remember.
Because it was trauma, yeah.
Yeah, Mark Twain, too. Eugene Bird says, in both general and special relativity, time is just a ruler for one of the dimensions, the non-Riemann one, in the flat space metric. There are just events, and time is a ruler that stretches and twists according to your motion relative to the CMB and energy, mass, pressure, tensor. But have to agree with your point about remembering it.
Fascinating.
Nice stuff. Yes.
So does Bones.
Cardinalson says Captain Kirk has way too much eyeliner on.
Yeah, there's a lot of eyeshadow in these episodes.
Well, at least it's not enemy within amount of eyeliner.
Right.
True. He's not evil Kirk this week.
Phantom Outsider says, here's the thing. Even if they remembered it, who'd believe them? Yeah, exactly. That's what they said at the beginning of the episode, which is why even going back to the past to erase their memories was not even necessary. They could have done exactly what Christopher wanted and just left them there without any proof that they had the adventure they just had. And Phantom Outsider also says, I went to a spaceship and had chicken soup. Wow, that's helpful future information. They'll have chicken soup in the future. Amazing.
Yeah, that's why it might not be a good idea to bring it up.
A good one, Phantom Outsider. James Cassard says, maybe they remembered, but no one believed them. Yes, exactly what I think happened. What a bunch of nonsensical comedy.
Yep.
Yeah, but you know what? They were experimenting with ideas that were different. And that was fun. Eugene Bird says, memory is in the brain, even if consciousness is or isn't. Mr. Angel says, what the? You didn't crack time travel yet? Wait, is this the 21st century? Darn it. My bad. I was mixing up the 23rd and 20th century. 22nd century. Okay.
Whatever Berlinghoff and Rasmussen.
Well, if you want to find out who's cracked time travel, please visit the Captain Infinity channel on YouTube. And if his internet is working, he might tell you.
All right.
Yeah,
well,
he'll keep you entertained for at least a few minutes.
I'll hit him up last week.
Great. Keep your eyes off of his hairpiece.
No, the eyeliner keeps your eyes off of his hairpiece.
Ah, thank you for the clarification. Bunyan Snipe says he should have worn more eyeliner as TJ Hooker.
And a thinner wig.
Okay, so more
slingshotting?
More slingshotting. Oh, Scott says, oh, we'll do that all right, Captain. We'll not be getting so close that my engines couldn't pull us out. What I'm worried about, sir, that we might not have much control when we're thrown forward again. Helm control. Braking control, sir. If I can't stop soon enough, we may overshoot our time. And if I stop the engine suddenly, the strain may tear us apart. Any way we do it, it's a mighty rough ride. And here's that rough ride.
And Uhura's working overtime. Like Nichelle Nichols is working overtime in this being thrown her out the bridge. It's really good. Actually, everybody is.
Yeah, no, when you watch her, she is so super graceful at such a chaotic scene in her tossing about.
Oh, go back one. I just want to admire that for 1 second. Okay, I'm good.
And so now the time is going forward. Christopher is going home. He's happy to be able to have gone to space since
he knows how to operate the program. And he knows how to operate the communicator or whatever, intercom on the transporter.
Yes. He knows how to turn it off. Well, he saw Kirk do it, but I don't know, I guess. He pays attention. And Sulu says, sir, our speed is increasing. We're traveling at over warp 8. And Kirk says, Mr. Spock. Spock says, since we passed Mercury, the sun's pull on us has increased greatly. From here, we'll move even faster. And Captain, notice the chronometers. They've started backwards minute by minute. The speed of time will now increase. The passage of time will now increase. Approaching breakaway point on the countdown. 10, 9, a countdown all the way to 1.
You've heard countdowns before, guys.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
We're not holding your hand through backwards counting.
Yeah, this is the preschool channel. Now, Mr. Sulu, more power, Mr. Sulu. So they use maximum power and they fly around the ship as we just saw. They break free and they're at warp 7 and 8. And they're going forward in time and they get back to their normal time. And so they return the 2 Air Force officers back to Earth while the Enterprise sinks shots to the future just in time to the 23rd century.
And each leap, Captain Christopher hoped, would be his leap home. Oh, and Hal. Hal gets beamed in, but they're not there for some inexplicable reason because technically, well, it's a malleable time. Oh no. Why aren't they there? They should be there.
Yeah, James Caserta says, abducted by Vulcans.
He had the perfect amount of eyeliner in TJ Hooker, by the way.
I never saw TJ Hooker, but Bunyan Stipe continues on this point. The reason none of the cops wore caps in TJ Hooker was because Shatner's hat was pulled off and his hair went with it, right? Phantom Outsider says, at Mr. Angel, I keep telling you, August 2024, Mark D with the C first uses his operational transporter and winds up in Westchester. And some school kids fly him home in their jet. Well, there you go. Proof of time travel here.
We just gotta wait.
Miss Shannon. Cardinal Sin says, well, that reasoning, when the Enterprise came back to transport Christopher back to his plane, they would have no idea why they were there. Yeah, exactly. And so even the episode itself, since the Enterprise crew are aware of exactly what is happening and what they've just done, none of them are confused, just like you're saying, Cardinal Sin. And so I think in the universe, Spock is just mistaken. And those air crew remember, but they can't prove it to anybody. I agree with you, Cardinal Sin. Herc 130 says, there are a few days back in the 80s I wouldn't mind being wiped from my brain. Parachute pants, splattered paint shoes, mullets, and hair metal bands. See what I mean? Admiral Teague says, doesn't Captain Christopher say stuff to show us he does not remember? He says he sees the Enterprise for a moment, and then we're left to think he loses sight of it and breaks off.
He does. He gets chided by command saying we don't chase mirages.
Yes, that's true. But he does say, I thought I saw something.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's true. Story-wise, DC Fontana wanted us to believe that they don't remember.
I wonder if it's a case of magic transporters. But yeah, Bunyan Snipe says these updated space effects, though. I don't know if you're saying boo or yay, but I thought it was beautiful. And I was actually, when I was watching the episode in preparation for this, I was checking to see because there was curvature on the sun, and I was like, no, come on, the sun's too big, there wouldn't be curvature. But as they get closer to the sun, it does straighten up, and it's a wall of fire. And it was, I do enjoy the remaster.
Oh, yes, definitely. I do too. Phantom Outsider says, wait, I heard somewhere you could be a big hero if you can count backwards to 0. I guess I won't be a hero today. And Franco Walker says, I thought you couldn't go to work in the solar system.
Star Trek, the motion picture, yeah.
But they say we have to risk it. And this seems to be one of those situations where, yep, they have to risk it.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently they wouldn't have any issues if the engines were properly balanced, right?
Oh, that makes sense too, because, the wormhole was created by the engine imbalance in the motion picture. You're right.
Yeah.
And, well, in this case, we just know the warp engine stopped. We don't know if they were imbalanced or not. Eugene Bird just tipped $20. That's incredible.
Wow.
Cheers,
Jill.
I know, right? Thank you. James Caserta says, it's dangerous, but not impossible. It all happened yesterday.
You mean tomorrow?
Tomorrow is yesterday.
That's what I heard. And Bunyan Snipe is giving a yay all the way. So, yeah, I agree.
Okay, so here's Admiral Teague speaking for Captain Infinity. They end up in Timeline C. It's Timeline C. And Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious sends some emojis.
Yay.
Thank you.
Very
Martin.
cool.
And so, okay, so even with all of the time travel logic, I love this episode so much that it is over before it even begins for me. That is how well paced it is and how wonderfully woven every scene is portrayed, written, acted, directed. They all come together and a beautiful majesty of science fiction story with a time travel science fantasy element, and it's perfection to me. And that doesn't mean, well, we can't, we can discuss the virtues of applying more current time travel theory upon it, which we did a little bit today, but not so much as we can. We could talk even more about it to make it even more perfect. And I would relish the chance to talk more about this episode and am welcome to it. I could rate it lower for logical flaws resulting from that investigation. Not the least of which is the memory wipe. There's more that we didn't even get to touch, but I only have like 10 minutes. However, so one thing important to remember is it was written in 1967, and even though there have been time travel stories way before, in the 1800s, the time when Star Trek was made, these kind of things were just being thought about in conjunction with what is mentioned at the beginning of this episode, traveling to the moon and the push to go out into space that is predicted in the story by DC Fontana. So I'm giving it that A+ because of that reason. And one other reason actually that I love this episode, probably too much, is that to date, this is the only episode of Star Trek that my son has enjoyed. I tried to show him many episodes of the best. Tried to show him the best episodes, but he just won't sit still for them. So this one captivated him from the beginning to the end. He commented to me that Major Christopher behaves exactly how he imagines he would if he was beamed onto the Enterprise. And DC Fontana's humor in the episode made him laugh on several occasions. So just for that, this is always going to be an extra special one for me.
Very nice.
Yeah, I give it an A+. I give it an A+ as well. Even with, and I'm the mind wipe and the beaming back in, because it looks like they just sort of physically replace with the transporter as opposed to beaming them in right after they were beamed away. Or anyway, that's the part where I figured it was going to get more difficult. And then when Hal goes to the room and Kirk and Sulu aren't there, that's but based on the intention of the author, I'm gonna let it pass. I'm not gonna say it makes sense, but I'm going to allow my suspension of disbelief to take a blind eye towards that. I know I'm gonna get torn up for this, but
I'm probably will too, but we'll be torn up together.
But I'm fine with it, just because everything else, and especially the characterization of Captain Christopher in terms of a modern day man interacting with the crew of the Enterprise. I thought that the Enterprise crew really are accommodating, maybe a little too free with the movement about the ship and exposure to the future, but
oops, I'm sorry.
No, don't apologize. I love music in my
sounds like the party's starting.
That was the closing music from my review, so that's an A+ coming down the pipe.
I would give it an A+ as well. I know it had a few flaws regarding time travel, obviously, and I know there's only so much they can squeeze within an hour episode. So there's a lot of questions and doubts about the way maybe people acted and maybe their motives. But I consider this one of my favorite episodes, and I enjoy it, so I'd give it an A+ as well.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Credit to Robert Justman. Thank you for this episode, and I'm so glad it happened.
His mustache.
He had a mustache.
Oh yeah, it's legendary.
Nice. Franco Walker says, I gave it a B+ because of memory problems. That is fair.
Yeah.
And Eugene Bird says, Star Trek is mind-blowing.
Yes,
and yeah, I don't even know what it was like to see this back then. I do wonder what my perspective would be, because we have an advanced perspective. Speaking of being in the future, we have a future perspective of an old TV show. So it's kind of difficult to really judge it from our extra knowledge that we have that they didn't.
No, but it could be worse. There was a lot of sci-fi that doesn't hold up to today's standards.
Right.
So it does well for what they
there's
did.
there's science fiction today that doesn't hold up to Star Trek standards from the 60s.
Well, yeah, that too. Right.
Mr. Angel says, sorry, must go. Thanks for the stream. Yeah, I gotta
Take
go
care,
too.
Mr. Angel.
Cheers, Mr. Angel.
Thank you so much, Mr. Angel, for being here.
Yeah, my dogs are about ready to kill me, so yeah, I understand.
Yeah, they know the show's almost over.
Right.
Phantom Outsider says the chicken soup guy left the military and created instant chicken soup.
Maybe his last name was Lipton.
All right, that was good. We had Phantom Outsiders hilarious. James Caserta says, "Sing us out." Oh wait, I can't do that. I can't. Okay, it's James Caserta. You have such high hopes for me, but I cannot sing. Matt G says, Doomcock live in 10 minutes with the critical drinker after Jill. What incredible news. Everybody, I'm going to close in just a couple minutes, and you guys can go head over to Overlord DVD's channel where he's going to be having a live stream with the critical drinker. Fantastic. Tell him where he came from.
If
well,
you
I'm
can
from
remember.
California. Just kidding.
You're right. I should have been more specific. Tell them what live stream you came from.
Right. Shout out to Jill's channel, right?
Yes. But that was a good one too. Anyway, yeah. Okay, now I'm just kind of excited about that. So I'm going to end the poll. Kapla Bird of Prey 5.
Kapla.
Hey, good to see you, Bird of Prey. Hope you're
Great
doing
to
well.
see you. I'm going to end the poll. 39 votes. That's good turnout. And
oh yeah,
they pretty much agree with the panel, more or less. You got a large percentage of people who give this episode an A, in the A range.
Excellent.
Yeah, that is great.
Oh man. Oh, there it is. It took just a minute to process. Computing and recorded.
Well, you got people coming in just as we're closing up shop.
I know, right? Captain Fandom Nerd, Hex Allen Comics says, hello, sorry I missed. I'll catch the replay. Yes, I hope you do. I hope you enjoy it too. If you do enjoy it, leave a comment in the comment section and let me know. And if you didn't enjoy it, send me a message on Twitter and let me know how I can improve. And Hex Allen is here. And Admiral Teague says, faulty trans-canonical verisimilitude holds the episode back. All future episodes are in timeline C. Yes, agreed. Yeah. In reality, if we want to follow, yes.
The reality of time travel.
Yes, in the reality of time travel. But in DC Fontana script, this is all one timeline. It is a malleable timeline.
This is the laying of the train tracks of time travel in Star Trek. So canon is canon.
Yeah. Sean Carter says, catch you all later. I have to step out. A+ for me, despite its flaws. The episode is imaginative, funny, and most of all, adventurous. I agree.
Yeah.
Yep.
Agreed.
James Caserta says that.
A pissing match?
I don't know what.
I don't know who's pissing.
He's here. I am glad of it.
Yeah.
Take care, everyone. And the only reason the beaming solution worked is that they had to get Christopher back into his plane. As a UFO destroying a U.S. aircraft would be a major problem.
Yes,
It's
it would.
true.
But we do have military craft known to just disappear under strange circumstances, so you never know. But it would open up an investigation.
Those were the times the Enterprise crew weren't so careful.
And also, if you run with the entire, as long as we do the slingshot effect and beam everybody back from where they're back from, those computations, then none of the episode actually had to happen. All they had to do is do the slingshot and nothing would have been recorded in the first place. They didn't have to beam down to steal anything.
No, but this was a great episode and I would love to keep talking about it. But we're going to have to table any further discussions of this episode to a future date because I have things I must do in the real world.
As do I.
So I must exit the Matrix and play for you the intro the promo rather, for the next episode we'll be discussing the return of the Archons.
They left?
And hello?
They left?
Oh,
the
yeah.
Archons.
Yeah, so they're returning.
Oh, okay.
So I don't have time to shout everyone out, but I did do my best to read the chat. So I hope you guys have a wonderful, wonderful Tuesday.
Yes.
And check out Jimcock if you are subscribed. And I will see you guys later.
Cheers. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Hey, that started.
Oh, that was fast.
Captain's log, stardate 3192.1. Trying to find some trace of the starship Archon that disappeared 100 years ago. A search party has been sent to the planet below. Spock, those power readings you took, are they
Powerful enough to destroy a starship.
There's another one. We gotta get out of here. You know what they're capable of. Only you.
Landru, he comes.
I am Landru. For the good of the body, you must die.